LA Gonzales has I think, one of the most impressive track records, from starting 4 years ago. And it's a big deal. He's probably one of the quickest in Southwest region to get promoted into the to get to his $1 million mark, and get his rollie and get different levels of accomplishment that he's gotten. So he's at $1 million in sales, which is huge, on Hall of Fame status. $10,000 pushes, and his biggest push, y'all, he sold over $63,000 for the push period. He is a father of a super cute 3-year-old, and also a husband, and someone who really saw the opportunity here and what he could build, and building a life with Cutco has really taken advantage of that. Close to $500,000 in his first 4 years on the job, which is pretty awesome start. And I know only the best is yet to come for LA. So I want to hand it over. Thank you, LA, so much for being willing to bring it to our crew here as we go into these last 5 days of the push, with tips you have on selling sets, and any other tips that you have on just like really finishing strong. It's something that I know that you've done so well over the years. And I'd love for you to share any tips to the group that you're willing.
Yeah, Kathy, thank you so much for having me, guys. And before I get started, I guess I just want to let you guys know I'm in my push too. I'm not having the biggest push of my career, but I'm on pace. I'm on track with the goal that I'm trying to have. I know I can tell you guys the last 3 days, I've had like 9 appointments set. And I've only sold like $1,400. So everyone has those good days, those bad days. I'm super excited for my weekend coming up. And I already have about 11 appointments just between Monday and Tuesday. So I think my biggest tip would just be wherever you're at, just commit to the activity. And usually good things happen. I was mentioning to Kathy, I'll be calling through my 11th hour list. So I'm sure she'll talk to you about that. But pretty much anyone that didn't buy from you throughout this push, like there's still a chance. I'm sure she'll talk about that later, but I'm excited. I have about 4 or 5 people on my list already, and I'm excited to call through them and close some last minute orders on that list. But today I'm going to be talking about selling sets. And it might not exactly be what you guys expect from a selling sets talk. And I'm not here, I know we have a lot of newer reps on this call, so I'm not here to like change your manual or anything like that. I just really want to hit on the points that when I first started, I learned made a really big difference in me, going from like selling, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces to selling like galleys and homemakers and Siggies and things like that, right? So what I hope you guys get from this talk is how to build and retain the value in buying a set. And also how to build and retain value in yourself every single time. And then I want you guys to understand the steps of a sale, which is liking me, liking me, knowing me, trusting me, and then paying me, right? So if you guys are taking notes, I'm going to go over 5 main topics. The first topic I'm going to go over is rapport. The second topic I'll be going over is goals, goals, goals. And if you're taking notes, you have to write it down 3 times, goals, 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 because it is just that important. And then the next topic I'll be covering is cutting. So I'm going to go over all the foods that I cut on my demos, why it's so important. If you guys are not taking 5 foods on your demos, you're shooting yourself in the foot. I have a demo here at 12:30. Not a service call, not a show. I have a demo at 12:30, and I'm super excited. I need to stop at H-E-B. I need to buy my pineapple. I need to buy a sweet potato, and I'll talk more about that shortly. And then I'm also going to talk to you guys about quality questions, right? These are a lot of quality questions that I'll ask throughout my demo, which will help build value throughout the presentation. And finally, I'm going to talk to you guys about bulletproof confidence. Super crucial, super important in creating orders, right? So to get started, I'm going to start talking about rapport. And again, guys, before I go into it, I just want to remind you that I'm not here to like change your script or do any of that at all. I'm just going to hit on, I believe, the 5 top tips that if you focus on these throughout your script, you'll just have a much better chance of selling a set. So number 1 is rapport, right? Rapport is super huge. I can't tell you guys how many times I've sold a homemaker and Miss Jones has just been like, LA, I really don't need this, but you're just so nice. I want to help you out, right? It happens all the time. So I don't just call it rapport, I call it intentional rapport. I'm not just asking Miss Jones questions just to ask her questions. Every rapport building question I'm asking, there's reason behind that question. So some of the questions that I'll ask when building rapport is, how long have you lived here, right? How long have you lived here? So if Miss Jones has only lived there for maybe 1 or 2 years, then you know that there's a mortgage and maybe they're not from the area, right? Maybe they're not going to know a bunch of people in the area for demos, so you can know to push on like virtual leads, right? But if Miss Jones has lived there for 30 years, what does that tell you? The house is probably paid off, right? So that's a big expense that they don't have. And they probably know a lot of people in the area, right? So I always ask, how long have you lived here? Another question I like to ask is this your only home, right? I did an appointment just a couple of days ago, and I asked Miss Jones, is this your only home? And they're like, no, we also have a lake house over in Concan. And I joked, I was like, oh, okay, so you're gonna need 2 sets today, right? Right, real funny, but you never know. And of course, I always like to ask, what do you do for work? You guys should know what they already do for work by qualifying your leads, but it's just a really great rapport building question. And of course, if the friend didn't know exactly what it was, it tells you like what income level they're at, right? So it's always good to ask them what they do for work. And then another question I always like to ask Miss Jones is, Miss Jones, do you like to cook? Do you love to cook? Or do you cook just because you have to, right? And the great thing about that question is no matter how they answer it, they cook, right? Cutco is for them. And then I always like to ask as well, do you have friends or family that love to cook, right? So that's really helpful when you're getting leads. So all this rapport, it's all about talking about Miss Jones, right? Who's your favorite person? Yourself, right? People love just talking about themselves. So when you're asking all these rapport building questions, although it's not much about you, it's all about Miss Jones, they're going to like you just because you're asking them questions about themselves, right? So now they like you. That was rapport. And now we're going to go into goals, right? If you're taking notes, write it down 3 times because it's literally that important. I can't tell you guys how many orders. I've probably closed 8 or 9, maybe 10 orders over this push. Just because Miss Jones was like, oh, well, you're in this competition. It's a good deal, LA. We're happy to help you out. If you guys aren't sharing your goals, if you're not talking about your push to every single client, you're definitely shooting yourself in the foot. When you talk about your goals, and I'll always go into goals right after doing the rapport, I'll say, Miss Jones, thank you so much for having me here today. I have a huge I have a huge goal for this competition I'm in to sell blank amount of dollars, right? Every appointment, every friend you tell about me, every order helps me towards my goals. This goal is so important to me because blank, right? So it has to be true to yourself. If you're not sure why your goal is important to you, I challenge you after this call to take a second and think what it would mean to you to hit your 6, 8, 10, 15K, whatever it is. So once again, thank you so much for seeing me today, right? Just in your beginning of the demo, you've taken care of the first 3 parts of the sale. They like you, they trust you, they know you. All that's left is they have to pay you, right? So just to recap the goals, one more time, I have a huge goal for this competition I'm in to sell blank amount dollars of Cutco. Every appointment, every friend you tell about me, every order helps me towards my goals, right? This goal is so important to me because blank. Next, we're going to go into cutting. But before I talk about the cutting, I do have a pro tip. So you can write on the side a pro tip that I'd like you guys to have. Before every demo, I always make 3 promises to Miss Jones. And those 3 promises is, Miss Jones, I promise you're gonna love Cutco. I promise you're gonna love Cutco. I promise I'm gonna be the highlight of your day. And I promise you're gonna like me enough to tell some friends about me. Three promises I'll make before every demo. I promise you're gonna love Cutco. I promise I'll be the highlight of your day. And I promise you're gonna like me enough to tell some friends about me. So cut, right? 5 foods at minimum. And these are the foods that I like to take on my appointments. So with apples, I'll take apples to use the paring knife. I'll take soft tomatoes for the trimmer. Pineapples for the petite carver. I always take a carrot for the chopping knife. I take a yellow or a red potato for the cheese knife. If you guys are building your kits and you want to be really fancy, take a sweet potato and use it on the veggie knife. Those are really tough to cut. The veggie knife is great on those. And then I'll also take a penny, and I'll always make sure to cut a penny for whoever's there, right? I'll cut a penny for Mr. Jones, for Miss Jones, for their 2 kids. I'll cut the penny multiple times. And then quality questions. Sorry, guys. Quality questions. Whenever I'm cutting the tomato, something I'll ask is, Miss Jones, do your tomatoes ever squish? And then with a petite carver, I'll ask, Miss Jones, do you ever struggle like with pineapples or melons, right? And when you ask, you need to make sure that you like crinkle your face. Like, do you ever struggle, Miss Jones? And then whenever I'm showing the slicer, I'll ask, Miss Jones, does your knife does it ever like crush the bread? And when cutting the penny, I'll ask, do you ever wish you had better scissors for like chicken or like tough packages or anything like that? And with the butcher knife, I always like to ask, do you ever struggle like with wings, ribs, or chickens, right? So we're always asking these quality questions because it's going to bring up a pain point, right? Oh yeah, I do struggle with that, LA. And what's the solution? Cutco. Finally, guys, I'm going to talk to you guys about bulletproof confidence. So one of the biggest things with selling Cutco, I believe, is just having confidence. Like when you have a high amount of confidence in your product and what you're saying, the likelihood that you're going to sell a set is just going to go through the roof. So I'm going to go through with you guys some of the phrases that I believe that I understand you might not have your whole manual memorized. That's okay. I was at $70,000 in sales until I was comfortable actually doing my demo without the manual. So these are the phrases that with bulletproof confidence, I believe are important that you need to have these memorized to give you a much higher chance of selling a set. So these are the top areas to consistently practice and not stutter on your words and things like that. So number 1 is, we've been around since 1949. We've been around since 1949. We're American made. Our knives are fixed, replaced, sharpened for free, forever. Also, something I found that's important, guys, is the double D edge, right? Explaining the double D edge. And when you see like Miss Jones like nods with you, like, oh, that makes sense. Like there's 3 edges. You know you're doing the right job, right? So I always like to tell Miss Jones, serrated edges, a regular serrated edge will just rip and tear through foods. Our knives actually have 3 razor sharp straight edges. It's not the food that dulls your knives, it's the cutting surfaces. The points on our knives do no cutting. All they do is to protect the sharp edges from doling out. That's why our knives will stay sharp for about 3 to 5 years without any sharpening at all. And then the final phrase that I believe you need to have memorized with bulletproof confidence is, you can definitely buy pieces. Most customers buy sets because they have built-in discounts. You get extra items. You have more tools for different jobs in the kitchen. And that's what will keep your set sharp for about 5 to 7 years without any sharpening at all. That's all I have for you today, guys. Just to recap, the 5 top things that'll help you guys sell sets: building rapport, right? Making Miss Jones like you. There's going to be so many customers that buy sets, you know, for their kids, for their grandkids, just to help you out, just because they like you. Sharing your goals, that is so important, guys. A lot of people like to be part of something greater than themselves. So knowing that they didn't just get a great, set of Cutco, a great addition to their collection, but they help someone along the way, is going to make them feel really happy about buying Cutco. The 5 foods that you should cut on every appointment. Again, guys, if you're not taking 5 foods, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Demos should be fun. Cutting is fun. Have fun with the job, and I promise you'll be amazed with how much you sell. Quality questions. Quality questions are super important because it brings up pain points, and it just makes Cutco make sense, right? And then finally, bulletproof confidence. Some certain phrases that you can go over, such as, we've been around since 1949, we're American made, right? The guarantee. Having those lines memorized, not stuttering on them, just being super confident in them, will help you guys close 5 pieces, galleys, homemakers, and bigger. So thank you so much, guys. If you do have any questions, I do have some time for Q&A.